Very interesting interview on CNN today between Chris Cuomo and the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, Roy Moore. And it really does get to the nub of the matter. Whether you agree with the Chief Justice or not on his various views of particular cases, there's no denying what he says in this interview, and there's no denying that Chris Cuomo believes what he says in this interview. So we're going to play this. It's less than a minute. And then we're going to unravel it. Because in many ways, this goes to the heart of the problem. This is today, CNN, hat tip CNS News. Cut 7, go.
Because our rights contained in the Bill of Rights do not come from the Constitution. They come from God. It's clearly stated
our
in the
laws
Declaration
do not come
of
from God, Your Honor, and you know that. They come from man.
Well, let me ask you one question. Chris. Is the Declaration of Independence law?
You would call it organic law as a basis for future laws off of it.
I would call it the organic law because the United States Code calls it organic law. It is organic law because the law of this country calls it the organic law of our country, means where our rights come from. And if they come from there, men can't take them away.
Our rights do not come from God. That's your faith. That's my faith. But that's not our country.
Well,
our laws
now
come
that's
from
not
the
a matter of faith,
collective
sir.
agreement and compromise.
Our rights do not come from God. That's your faith. That's my faith. But that's not our country, he says. Our laws come from collective agreement and compromise. And earlier he used the word power. Rights are not about laws. Rights are not about power. Where do these unalienable rights come from? These inviolable rights. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They don't come from man. They don't come from a collection of men that we call government. These are rights. You're born with these rights. They don't come from reason. They don't come from logic. They are. Period. The right to live is not a right conferred by man. Birth, supposed not to be a right conferred by man. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we have certain rights outside of government. We have certain rights that belong to us as individual human beings. Not because some Congress says so, not because some president or Supreme Court says so, or the EPA says so, not because Chris Cuomo says so. It's because it is so. This is a fundamental, if not the fundamental issue around which this nation was founded. That our rights do not come from man, that our rights come from God. Now, many of you out there may not believe in God. You may not be sure if you believe in God. I talked about this at some length the other day. I've written about it in Liberty and Tyranny. That's perfectly fine. Believe or don't believe, whatever you want. But that's not how the nation was founded. And the fact that we are a tolerant society, is because of this insistence we have in the Declaration of Independence that each and every one of you, each and every one of us have unalienable rights. And Barack Obama can't take them away. John Boehner, McConnell, Harry Reid, no justice, no group of justices, no judge, nobody can take them away. They're outside of government. They're bigger than mankind. Now, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe me. Now, I'm not talking about passing statutes or codes or ordinances and that sort of thing. Obviously, that involves politics and government. I am talking about fundamental human rights. And the left does not believe in fundamental human rights. They believe in fundamental, quote-unquote, rights dispensed by government. And this is where the problem rests. The Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence, the most remarkable document outside the Bible on the face of the earth. The first draft by Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson borrowing from, among others, the brilliant philosopher, one of many in the Enlightenment, but a profound philosopher, John Locke, and borrowing from his fellow Virginian, George Mason, who about a month before authored the Virginia Declaration of Rights, which was adopted by the Virginia Constitutional Convention on June 12, 1776, of which Jefferson was fully familiar. The Declaration of Independence. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among them the powers of the earth, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. The laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. Let me stop right there. This is the core. This is the heart of the matter. This is what we embrace to stand up against tyranny. Oh, government gives rights. We collect. No, it doesn't. It never has, and it never will. The laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. Straight out of John Locke. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. It goes on. We hold these truths to be self-evident. To be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator, not their fellow man, by their Creator, with certain unalienable rights. Unalienable rights, meaning they are rights at birth and rights to your death. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers. Deriving their just powers. Not the power to make and break rights. Their just powers. From the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people, not conferred by the government, but the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, not because the government gave it to them. It is their unalienable right as individuals, as human beings. It is their duty, it goes on, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over the states. And then they list the facts. They list them for the world. They submit them, they say, to a candid world. So the whole world knows why they're rising up and revolting. The very last paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, which very few people read, goes like this. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world. The Supreme Judge of the world. Not appealing to any government, foreign or domestic. Appealing to the same authority. The same authority who is responsible for unalienable rights. Appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions. Do in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of the right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all the other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Jefferson originally drafted it. It was the fifth and final draft, reviewed by a committee that included John Adams and Benjamin Franklin and Livingston, that was sent to the full Congress to adopt. The idea that we get our rights, our fundamental human rights, from government or any collection of our fellow citizens is the definition of tyranny, is the definition of totalitarianism. That's not where we get our rights from. No, they come from a higher authority. And those of you who do not believe in a God, or you're not sure you believe in a God, believe whatever you want or don't believe whatever you want. I am telling you the basis for this society, this magnificent society. And let me remind you that the Declaration of Independence was written and adopted before the Constitution of the United States. It came first. A declaration of unalienable rights as a people to live free and secure and happy. The Declaration of Independence, in short, is a declaration of civil society. You cannot have a republic if there is no civil society. You cannot have a republic if you believe rights, quote unquote, come from man. Justice Moore was correct. Chris Cuomo was not. And yet Chris Cuomo speaks for millions and millions of people who have no idea what their country stands for or why they're free. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.